We don't get the love we want, we get the love we think we deserve. And that's where most people go wrong, not in who they fall in love with, but in what they believe they're worthy of. See, relationships don't just happen to us. They're not luck or timing or fate. They are a direct reflection of how we see ourselves, not always consciously, but absolutely truthfully. The person you choose to give your heart to is in many ways a mirror. What that mirror reflects says more about your self-worth than you might realize. If you constantly find yourself in relationships where you feel unappreciated, disrespected, or unseen, it's not just about the other person. The first place to look is inward. What made you choose to stay? What made you believe that this was all you deserved? Because we will always accept the love we think we are worthy of. Every one of us carries within ourselves a deeply ingrained belief about what we deserve in life. That belief shapes everything from how we speak to ourselves in the mirror to the choices we make about who we allow close to our hearts. When it comes to relationships, this belief becomes the silent architect of our love life. You don't simply attract random people, you attract those who match the value you place on yourself. Think about it. If you wake up every day convinced that you're not worthy of kindness or respect, you won't seek out or even recognize partners who treat you with the love and honor you truly deserve. Instead, you'll unconsciously settle for less attention, less care, less respect, simply because that's what you believe you're entitled to. That's the hard truth many avoid admitting. The quality of our relationships is a direct reflection of how much value we place on ourselves. It's easy to blame others when relationships go wrong. We say they didn't treat me well, or I was unlucky to meet that person. But the more challenging question is, why did I choose to stay? Why did I let someone else's behavior define my worth? Because the moment you accept mistreatment, you're communicating a message to yourself and the world that your standards are low, that you don't believe you deserve better. What you believe about yourself creates a powerful energy that people pick up on, whether consciously or not. If you believe you're lovable and worthy, you carry yourself differently, with confidence, with peace, with strength. And people respond to that energy. They treat you better because you're showing them how to treat you. On the other hand, if you carry self-doubt, insecurity, or self-criticism, those vibrations invite others to treat you the same way. It's not about blaming the other person. It's about understanding the invisible contract you make when you step into a relationship. This doesn't mean your beliefs are always true or accurate. Sometimes life or past experiences have convinced you that you're not enough, when in reality you are. But those internal stories become the lenses through which you view your worthiness, and they become the yardsticks by which you measure potential partners. They influence whether you expect love to be easy or hard, whether you stay in conflict or walk away, whether you demand honesty or tolerate lies. The good news is this: your beliefs can change. You are not doomed to repeat patterns because of what you've thought in the past. Recognizing that what you attract reflects what you believe you deserve is the first step toward transformation. When you start to believe deeply and authentically that you deserve love that is respectful, supportive, and nurturing, your actions will shift accordingly. You'll raise your standards, and more importantly, you'll enforce them. Changing what you believe about yourself is not a quick fix. It's a process of healing, reflection, and sometimes uncomfortable growth. It means learning to speak kindly to yourself, to celebrate your strengths, and to forgive your mistakes. It means setting boundaries and sticking to them, even when it's hard. It means choosing solitude over toxic company because you've realized your value is non-negotiable. When you embody this new belief in your self-worth, you'll notice a shift in your relationships. The people you attract will be different. They won't be perfect, because nobody is, but they will reflect the respect and love you now expect. You'll find yourself less willing to settle for less than you deserve because you finally know what that looks like. You'll be more patient with yourself and with others because you understand that building healthy connections takes time and trust. Ultimately, attracting what you believe you deserve is not about playing games or manipulating others. It's about aligning your inner world with the external relationships you create. When you honor your worth, your relationships honor it too. When you refuse to settle for crumbs, you invite abundance. When you believe in your value, you build a love life that reflects that truth. So if you want better relationships, not just more relationships, start by examining what you believe about yourself. Start by choosing to believe that you deserve deep, meaningful, and genuine love, because the moment you do, you'll start attracting exactly that. Standards often get a bad reputation. People sometimes see them as rigid rules, as walls that shut others out, or as signs of being difficult or picky. But the truth is that standards are not about keeping people away. They are about knowing who you are and what you will accept in your life, especially in your relationships. Standards are a reflection of your self-value. They are a mirror that shows exactly how much you respect yourself and what you believe you are worthy of. When you set standards, you are sending a clear message to yourself and to others about how you expect to be treated. It's not about demanding perfection or expecting others to meet impossible criteria. Instead, it's about defining what you consider essential to feel safe, respected, and loved. If you don't have these boundaries or standards, you are essentially saying that anything is okay and that anything often leads to pain, disappointment, and unfulfilling connections. Think about the way you respond when someone crosses a boundary. Maybe they cancel plans repeatedly, lie about small things, or dismiss your feelings. If your standards are low, you might shrug it off or make excuses. You might convince yourself it's not a big deal because you don't want to be too demanding or because you're afraid of being alone. But each time you allow this, you are telling yourself, I am not worth better. You are reflecting a low self-value. On the other hand, when you hold firm to your standards, when you say, I deserve honesty, I deserve respect, or I deserve kindness, you are affirming your self-worth. You are showing up for yourself in a powerful way. This is not about arrogance or being unapproachable. It's about self-respect. It's about refusing to accept less than what nurtures your well-being and growth. Your standards are the blueprint for your emotional environment. Just like a healthy home needs strong foundations, your relationships need clear, non-negotiable values to thrive. Without those standards, confusion and chaos creep in. You might find yourself constantly explaining why you're unhappy, wondering why you're always the one giving more, or feeling exhausted by emotional roller coasters. This often happens when the mirror of your self-value is cracked or foggy. Sometimes people mistake raising standards for being hard to please, but it's quite the opposite. Having standards is about clarity. Clarity on what you will and won't accept. Clarity on what makes you feel safe and loved. It frees you from guessing games and settling. When you know your value, you don't waste time on relationships that don't meet your core needs. Instead, you conserve your energy for those that truly nurture you. The challenge, however, is that raising your standards requires courage. It means sometimes saying no, even when it hurts. It means risking disappointment or loneliness, rather than sacrificing your well-being for temporary comfort. It means standing firm when others might judge you or try to convince you that you're being too strict. But every time you stand in your truth, you reinforce your self-value. As you strengthen your standards, you'll notice a transformation, not just in your relationships, but in yourself. You'll start trusting your instincts more. You'll stop making excuses for poor behavior and start demanding the respect you deserve. You'll realize that your happiness is not negotiable and your emotional health is worth protecting fiercely. Remember, your standards are a mirror reflecting your inner dialogue. If that mirror is distorted by self-doubt, fear, or past wounds, it's time to repair it with self-compassion, awareness, and intentional growth. When you value yourself, your standards naturally rise. And when your standards rise, the quality of your relationships and your life follow suit. In the end, setting and maintaining your standards is one of the most loving things you can do for yourself. It's an act of courage and self-respect that paves the way for healthier, deeper, and more fulfilling connections. So don't shy away from your standards. Embrace them as the true reflection of your self-value. Because how you treat yourself and what you expect from others sets the tone for the love you receive. Relationships are often seen as two separate people coming together. But the truth is far more complex and revealing. A relationship is not just about what the other person brings to the table. It is a dynamic, ongoing feedback loop. A continuous exchange that reflects back not only who the other person is, but who you are. It's a mirror that shows you your own patterns, your insecurities, your strengths, and your blind spots. If you want to understand your relationship, you have to look inward first. Because the way you engage with your partner is always a reflection of how you engage with yourself. When a relationship feels toxic or draining, it's easy to blame the other person. We say things like, they're the problem, or they don't treat me right. And while there may be truth in that, the feedback loop tells us there is more to see. If you find yourself constantly frustrated, hurt, or misunderstood, it's worth asking how your own behavior, fears, or expectations might be contributing to the dynamic. The relationship isn't happening in isolation. It's a two-way street, and what you send out will come back to you in some form. This feedback loop means that when you show up in a relationship from a place of insecurity, jealousy, or mistrust, you often invite those very same energies in return. It's not because the other person is intentionally trying to hurt you. It's because you are signaling that those feelings are present and accepted. Similarly, when you bring kindness, patience, and openness, you are more likely to receive those qualities in response. The relationship becomes a dance where each partner's actions and emotions influence the others, creating patterns that either build connection or breed distance. Sometimes this feedback loop can feel frustrating, like you're stuck in a cycle you can't break free from. You might recognize that certain arguments keep repeating or that old wounds keep getting reopened. That's because the relationship is holding up a mirror to your own unresolved issues. It's not a punishment or a flaw in the relationship, it's an opportunity. It's an invitation to look deeper at what's inside you and to take responsibility for your part in the story. Taking responsibility doesn't mean blaming yourself. It means recognizing that you have power. The power to change how you respond, to communicate differently, to set boundaries, and to heal your own wounds. When you do this, the feedback loop shifts. You break the cycle of pain and confusion, and the relationship begins to reflect a new reality, one of growth, understanding, and respect. This is why relationships can be some of the most profound teachers in our lives. They force us to confront who we really are beneath the surface. They show us where we need to grow emotionally and where we've been carrying unnecessary baggage. The best relationships don't erase conflict or struggle, but they provide a space where those challenges become opportunities for mutual growth and deeper connection. If your relationship feels unhealthy, it's not just about changing your partner, it's about changing how you engage in the relationship. What are you communicating through your words and actions? Are you open and honest or guarded and defensive? Are you willing to listen and understand, or are you insisting on being right? The answers to these questions influence the feedback loop more than anything else. And when you understand that the relationship is a feedback loop, you realize that what you receive is often a reflection of what you give. If you want more respect, you start by respecting yourself and modeling that respect in how you treat others. If you want more love, you begin by loving yourself and being generous with kindness and compassion. The relationship doesn't change because the other person suddenly becomes different. It changes because you become different. This perspective shifts your power from feeling like a victim of circumstance to becoming an active participant in shaping your relationship. It calls you to look inward, grow, and take responsibility, knowing that this inner work ripples outward to create healthier and more fulfilling connections. The relationship isn't just about two people trying to coexist. It's about two people reflecting and evolving together, a continuous loop of giving, receiving, and growing. So if you want to improve your relationship, start with yourself. Notice the patterns you create, the emotions you bring, and the ways you respond. Because in the feedback loop of love, what you put out is what you'll get back. And that truth holds the key to transformation. Confidence is one of those qualities that often gets misunderstood. People sometimes think confidence means being loud, boastful, or always sure of yourself. But real confidence doesn't shout or demand attention. It's quiet, steady, and it sets a tone that changes everything around it, especially in relationships. When you carry confidence, you aren't trying to prove your worth to anyone else. You don't feel the need to seek constant validation or approval. Instead, you trust yourself deeply. You know who you are, what you want, and what you deserve. That kind of confidence is magnetic because it comes from a place of self-awareness and self-respect, not insecurity or ego. In relationships, confidence sets the tone from the very beginning. When you show up confident, you send a clear message about how you expect to be treated. You don't settle for less, and you don't tolerate disrespect. It's not about being rigid or unyielding, but about standing firm in your value. This kind of confidence invites others to rise to that level too, creating a dynamic where mutual respect and understanding are possible. Confidence also gives you the courage to be authentic. When you believe in yourself, you don't need to wear masks or pretend to be someone you're not. You bring your true self to the relationship, flaws, strengths, fears, and dreams. This authenticity fosters deeper connection because real love happens when two people see and accept each other fully. Without confidence, it's easy to fall into people-pleasing or pretending, which builds walls instead of bridges. It's important to understand that confidence doesn't mean you never feel fear, doubt, or insecurity. Everyone experiences those feelings. The difference is that confidence allows you to face those emotions without letting them control you. You acknowledge your vulnerabilities without letting them define you. This creates space for growth and learning rather than stagnation or self-sabotage. And when confidence sets the tone, you also become better at communication. You speak your truth with clarity and kindness. You express your needs and boundaries without apology. This openness prevents misunderstandings and resentment from building up. Instead of guessing or second-guessing, both partners know where they stand, which creates a foundation of trust. On the flip side, a lack of confidence can create chaos in relationships. When you doubt your worth, you might cling to a partner who doesn't treat you well. You might tolerate behavior that chips away at your self-esteem because you're afraid of losing the relationship. Or you might try too hard to be perfect, sacrificing your needs to keep the peace. None of this builds a healthy relationship. Instead, it creates imbalance, confusion, and unhappiness. Confidence empowers you to walk away when something isn't right. It gives you the strength to say no to relationships that don't honor your value. This isn't easy. It means confronting loneliness, uncertainty, and fear of the unknown. But true confidence trusts that you deserve better and that better is possible. It believes in your ability to create a life and love that align with who you really are. Confidence also influences the way you respond to challenges within a relationship. When conflicts arise, as they always do, confident people don't retreat into silence or attack out of fear. They engage thoughtfully, seeking understanding and resolution. They don't take things personally or catastrophize problems. Instead, they approach difficulties with calm and resilience, knowing that setbacks are part of growth. It's important to build this kind of confidence from the inside out. It doesn't come from external achievements or the approval of others. It comes from knowing your values, honoring your boundaries, and practicing self-compassion. It grows as you face your fears, learn from mistakes, and celebrate your progress. Over time, this inner strength becomes a force that not only shapes your relationships, but also every other part of your life. So if you want to transform your relationships, start by cultivating confidence within yourself. Show up fully and unapologetically. Trust that you are enough just as you are. Stand firm in your worth and communicate with honesty and kindness. When confidence sets the tone, you invite relationships that reflect your true value. Relationships rooted in respect, authenticity, and love. When people talk about relationships, they often focus on the act of settling, as if it's the problem itself. They say, don't settle for less, as if settling were some simple choice you make one day, like picking a meal off a menu. But settling is not the root problem. It's a symptom of something deeper going on inside. It's a sign that somewhere along the way, your own sense of worth, your expectations, or your boundaries have been compromised. To truly change your relationship experience, you have to look beneath the surface and understand what's driving that settling behavior. Settling happens when people don't believe they deserve more. It's not just about the other person or the situation. It's about what you believe about yourself. If you don't truly see your value, it's hard to expect others to see it either. Settling often comes from a place of fear. Fear of loneliness, fear of being judged, or fear of not finding anything better. It's easier to stay in a familiar situation, even if it's painful or unfulfilling, than to face the uncertainty of change. But that fear is a barrier, not a fact. Another reason settling happens is because of unresolved wounds or past experiences. Maybe you grew up witnessing unhealthy relationships or were told you wouldn't find better. These stories become internalized truths that quietly shape your choices. Without realizing it, you start living out those narratives, accepting less because that's what you believe is normal or possible. Until you challenge and heal those internal stories, settling will keep showing up as a pattern. Sometimes settling is also about a lack of clarity. When you don't know exactly what you want or need, it's easy to accept whatever comes along. You might confuse companionship for love or familiarity for compatibility. Without clear standards and boundaries, settling becomes the default because nothing else feels certain or available. Defining what you truly deserve isn't selfish, it's essential for breaking the cycle of settling. It's important to recognize that settling isn't about weakness or failure. It's often a survival mechanism, a way to cope with feelings of unworthiness or fear. But surviving is not the same as thriving. When you settle, you put a bandage over the deeper wounds instead of addressing them. You delay the growth and healing that are necessary to build healthier, more fulfilling relationships. The real problem lies in the beliefs and habits that lead to settling. When you start believing that you deserve respect, love, and kindness, no matter what your past says, you begin to raise your expectations. When you learn to set and enforce boundaries, you stop tolerating behavior that chips away at your self-esteem. When you prioritize your own emotional health and well-being, you create space for relationships that match your true value. Changing this pattern takes courage and intentional effort. It means sitting with discomfort, facing fears, and sometimes walking away from situations that feel safe but aren't good for you. It means challenging old stories and rewriting your internal narrative to one that honors your worth. This is the foundation for not settling, because when your foundation is strong, settling simply isn't an option. The transformation also involves learning to trust yourself. Confidence in your own worth and judgment will help you recognize when a relationship is healthy and when it isn't. You'll be less likely to ignore red flags or make excuses for behavior that doesn't serve you. Instead, you'll choose connections that nurture and support your growth. When you stop settling, you're not just changing who you're with, you're changing how you show up in relationships. You become more authentic, more assertive, and more aligned with your true self. This shift ripples outward, attracting partners who reflect that confidence and clarity. So remember, settling is a symptom, a signal that your beliefs about yourself and your worth need attention. The problem isn't the settling itself, it's what settling reveals about how you see yourself. When you address those deeper issues, when you heal and grow, settling loses its power. You create room for relationships that honor your value, reflect your true worth, and bring the fulfillment you deserve. Self-worth is often talked about as something abstract or fleeting, but it is one of the most powerful forces that shapes our entire experience of life, especially when it comes to long-term fulfillment. It's not just about feeling good in the moment or having temporary confidence. It's the foundation that determines the quality of the relationships we build, the goals we pursue, and ultimately the happiness we sustain over time. When you truly understand your self-worth, you begin to realize that fulfillment doesn't come from external achievements or the approval of others. It comes from a deep, unshakable sense of value that exists regardless of circumstances. This inner knowing anchors you through life's ups and downs and keeps you aligned with what truly matters. Without this foundation, fulfillment becomes fragile, dependent on fleeting things like success, status, or the validation of others. Self-worth influences every choice you make, especially in relationships. When you value yourself, you naturally seek connections that honor that value. You don't settle for less than you deserve, and you don't tolerate disrespect or neglect. Instead, you cultivate relationships built on mutual respect, trust, and genuine care. These relationships nurture your growth and bring joy, not just in the short term, but for years to come. Long-term fulfillment in relationships is rarely about perfection. It's about feeling safe, seen, and appreciated for who you truly are. Self-worth allows you to show up authentically and expect the same from your partner. It gives you the strength to communicate openly, to forgive, and to grow together through challenges. When your self-worth is strong, you're less likely to be swayed by temporary difficulties or external pressures because you know your relationship is grounded in something deeper. Now, this doesn't just apply to romantic relationships. Self-worth shapes how you engage with family, friends, and colleagues. It sets the tone for how you allow others to treat you and how you contribute to the lives of those around you. When you operate from a place of worthiness, you create healthier boundaries and foster connections that are enriching rather than draining. This broad network of meaningful relationships is a key ingredient in long-term fulfillment. Beyond relationships, self-worth shapes your sense of purpose and achievement. When you believe in your value, you pursue goals that resonate with your true self instead of chasing what looks good on the outside. This alignment brings a deep satisfaction that outlasts the momentary thrill of accomplishment. It motivates you to persist through setbacks because you see your efforts as part of a meaningful journey rather than a desperate chase for approval. Without a strong sense of self-worth, success can feel hollow. You might reach milestones yet still feel empty or anxious, constantly seeking the next thing to prove your value. This cycle creates burnout and dissatisfaction because fulfillment, tied solely to external factors, is always temporary. Self-worth, however, offers a stable foundation. It reminds you that your value isn't tied to what you do or what others think of you. It's inherent and unchanging. Developing self-worth is a lifelong process that requires self-compassion and intentional growth. It means learning to forgive yourself for past mistakes, embracing your imperfections, and recognizing your unique strengths. It involves setting boundaries that protect your well-being and surrounding yourself with people who uplift and respect you. Each of these steps builds resilience and deepens your connection to yourself. As your self-worth grows, you'll notice a shift in how you experience life. You will be less dependent on external validation and more connected to your inner voice. You'll make choices that reflect your true desires and values, leading to greater satisfaction and peace. This inner alignment creates a ripple effect influencing all areas of your life and paving the way for lasting fulfillment. In the end, self-worth isn't just about feeling good. It's about creating a life that feels meaningful and whole. It shapes the quality of your relationships, the goals you chase, and how you show up every day. When you nurture your self-worth, you build a foundation that supports long-term fulfillment, no matter what challenges come your way. It's the quiet strength that sustains you and the compass that guides you toward a life of genuine happiness.